Welcome to the European Integration Group podcast. Today, I'm excited to have my high school friend Yavuz Orhun Kılıç joining us. Orhun is a talented screenwriter and creative writer currently living in London. He completed his master's degree in the UK and has a wealth of experience exploring storytelling, culture, and society through his creative work. We will be discussing his experiences living in the UK, Turkish diaspora in England, the UK's relationship with the European Union, and therefore its dynamics alongside insights from his field of work. Yavuz Orhun Kılıç, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Orhun, can you share how your journey in screenwriting and creative writing began, and what drove you specifically to this field?
Basically, even I started writing when I was 18 years old. Sometimes I say it was always in me. It may sound a little arrogant, but the way my brain works is very different. When I was a child, I was thinking about a continuation of the series in my head, no matter what. Even when I watched Spider-Man, I always wondered what kind of storyline it could be. And when I reached adulthood or younger adulthood, I can say, I started to write that down and ideas come to my mind. Even it was the most simple thing, I come up with very great things and it makes me excited. It feels like I came this world for this purpose, to write different stories, different characters, compelling themes, maybe a little darker. I don't know why. Stop questioning them, but I really like writing darker stories. But I started really slowly and reached this level. I started writing in Turkish. One of my greatest friends, who's a comic book artist, told me, listen, your stories is incredible. Everyone should see this. But in order to do that, you have to write in English, you have to practice English, and you should learn how to put this character into an international perspective in that sense. Then I reached this point. I came to London. I'm currently writing my own stories. Maybe one of them will be produced, hopefully. One of the producers approached me and said, okay, if you want to turn it into a film, why not? And we will meet them this week.
How has living in London influenced your creative process and storytelling compared to your experiences in Turkey?
Well, I suffer a lot in London, actually. So in my stories, you can see lots of poor people in a depressed mind, or some artists doesn't live in their standards or appreciate it well. But this is the way you should foresee before you step on this career. Many, like our founder, Atatürk once said, everyone can be any profession they want, but not everyone can be an artist. This is something I feel in London. Besides that, London is a place that many artists actually gather together, and you can see there's a history, there's a culture, different people, various events going on. So there are so many things you can get inspired easily, and you can come up with different settings, different themes, different storylines. Yeah, it's as simple as that. I didn't study in London. I just moved to London because I have good connections in here. I studied in Norwich in University of Anglia. I think one of the best creative writing schools in the world now. And many people say it is the best because our founder has won like 4 Nobel Awards in literature.
From your perspective, how do Turkish communities in the UK maintain cultural identity, and how do they interact with broader British society?
It becomes much better compared to old days, because in old days people were much rude to each other or much envious to each other about their opportunities, and they try to tackle each other. But now Turkish communities have become more friendly, more collaborative, and more focusing on same goals, mutual goals, because living as an immigrant is not easy in the UK. So Turkish people need to help each other, assist each other in terms of finding a job. Most of the time, many Turkish friends of mine, also myself, find our first job because one of our Turkish branch references. Otherwise, it is quite challenging. Rather than that, we have a different mindset compared to British and other nationalities. Again, I don't want to sound like arrogant or prejudiced, but we are more practical thinkers. I believe Turkish people are actually smart, but we don't tend to use it that much. Yeah, and what I say, our communities can still develop in some ways in terms of creativity as well. But thankfully, I'm actually try to contribute to that. I have lots of good. I have a friend who's also from Turkey who tried to write plays. There is an actor I know. We are coming from the same class in Bilkent. I studied in Bilkent as well, and he was sitting next to me in the scriptwriting course. He's in there in Edinburgh as well, but he's an actor. He's a very good friend of mine. I also tried to arrange him a job, like because I also have an agency, right? So I also work on the agency here.
Could you please also tell about your agency?
Yeah. I also found my own agency because it's much easier to collaborate and reach out artists because many artists doesn't have funds or financial requirements to finish their projects or bring some people together. So this agency tried to help their project to be finalized and to be shown the platform they want to do it. But yeah, I also do consultation for them. But most of my clients are Turkish. Like I have a very good friend of photographer. I recently met with a very good director. Sorry, I cannot name those because I didn't ask for their permission. But yeah, there are so many creative people coming from Turkey. It doesn't matter where they are coming from. It's a much what they become is much important. I guess it's a much better. It's a more mature. Yeah.
What differences have you noticed in the way British audiences engage with creative content versus Turkish audiences?
In terms of, I only see them, I think the first thing comes to my mind, British people tend to be more focusing on teamwork, but our people, Turkish people, tend to be more individualistic, consisting of me as well, like including me. I have some theories on that, but I might be wrong.
Orhun, is this because of Turkish people living in UK would like to do their stuff on their own because they don't get along with other Turkish people from their background? Or are you specifically saying this with respect to Turkish people, Turkish screenwriters or creative content creators in Turkey as well?
With respect to that, like the thing I want to say is more related to every field Turkish people do. We like to compete a lot with each other instead of developing ourselves. This is something we should change. I try to change by myself as well, but it's not the fault of. It's more about the system we raise because we want to be the best. Everyone tries to be best, and we cannot stop. Everyone wants to be the best screenwriter. Everyone wants to be the best director. Even when you come together, there are some conflicts with each other. I work with lots of sets in Turkey, and I saw that unfortunately many people lose their focus and just try to compete with each other. It actually damages the project more than their reputation, I guess. We just need to stop and we just need focusing on ourselves and our improvement. This is one thing I learned from British people or any people from the Europe. They're only focusing on themselves and focusing on finishing the project instead of compete with random people I just met. I don't know why we are like this. Probably, like I said, it can be cultural. It's the same with Asian cultures as well. So this is what I saw. However, it's also quietly changing. Thankfully, people like myself, people like my friends, it is changing. It will be more collaborative than before. Hoping that.
In your opinion, how has the UK's post-Brexit relationship with the EU affected the cultural and creative sectors in London?
Culturally, they tend to see less Europeans in the creative fields because they don't tend to come here. It is much harder to get a role in a production or product field, creative field, I can say. And besides that, I have a commercial company I'm talking with. They always said it was much cheaper to go to somewhere like Prague to shoot a commercial. Now it is not possible. It is much expensive than shooting in London. That's why they stick into the same area. And there are less areas to shoot and rent. This is another thing. When I sent the synopsis to some producers, the first thing they said, "Oh, where can we shoot this? Like, do you know any location? Do you know any friends?" And I said, "This is another thing you should think about. Like, when you are a creative person, you should have to know so many people, and you should have good connections in order to finalize your project." That's why I tend to talk with lots of people, even in a random street. This is one of the best advice somebody gave me when I was in Bilkent. They said, if you want to write a good story, you have to talk with everyone around you without any judging or biased decisions, biased opinions. Yeah.
Could you please tell us the details on how was the progress on applying Masters of Creative Writing in UK? What kind of documents did you submit?
Again, I don't want to praise myself, but before doing that, I have written. I just counted because I was really obsessed with, okay, I want to get all my applications to be accepted. So I just count all my scripts I have written since I was studying in politics in the Balkans. I have written 50 scripts, feature films, comics, TV shows, everything. When I applying for University of Design, the UVA, I just check their requirements and see, okay, 3 short stories. Nah, this is not my field. 1 pilot episode, 45 minutes. And I didn't like that. I just said, okay, I will just do this. And then I just set up and come up with a very good TV show concepts about a guy who lives in a cyber world who tries to be a chef, but being a chef is useless because they don't earn anything. And in this world, people chew gum instead of eating food. That's why he needs to find a perfect taste that gum factories couldn't copy that taste. He finds something, but in the end, he starts a pandemic because he found a virus as well. And it is related to his ethical decisions versus his dream, following his dream. Whether follow your dream or follow your morals. I can say there was a dilemma or conflict like that. Yeah, I just write that down like in 2 months or 3 months. I don't remember exactly. Then I submitted, and my dear professor Steve Walters just connect with me and just said, okay, we would like to interview you, and I will make my decision. Of course, I also research on him background, what he likes, what he doesn't, what kind of story books he follows, he accepts. So he just interviewed and he just said, okay, you can be the first Turkish person who answered this question. I said, why not? And he just gave me the opportunity to do that and gave me the grant around. It is not like full funding, like sponsor or whatever. It was like 15%. Fee.
That's a good start, I think. The field you are working in is quite challenging. There are many challenges. You have to be really good even to get that funding, right?
I mean, yeah, like because there are only 3 people can come to that area in terms of international students, because your English level should be higher than anyone, even in their countries. And there were me, one of my Filipino friends, and one of the Indian friend of mine. We were the only international students in all class. The others were Americans or British people, or people from UK, like Scottish or Irish.
Can you share examples of projects or narratives you have worked on that explore cross-cultural themes between Turkey and the UK?
Interesting. Like for me, one of the things I kind of explore in my stories is the individualism, which is something like what's our individual goals, how we describe ourselves. And it is quite different. When I use a UK setting, probably it will be much different to tell. But in terms of Turkish theme, it will be much different. The reason of that is the culture, obviously, because we tend to, one culture, British culture, respects the individualism and try to protect your own freedom and rights, liberates them, and there are so many rights you can protect. But in Turkey, you have to fit into society, otherwise you will lose your privileges, I guess I can say. Or there's a term called normal in Turkey, obese term of Turkey is normal. There is no normal in England or in the UK, I can say. That's why there's a different storylines that I can come up with. Most of the time, recently, I usually use immigrant theme a lot in my stories because I kind of encounter it a lot. So it's just the most easiest theme I use in the stories at the moment. But yeah, usually philosophical things with.
How do you see the future of storytelling evolving in the UK, especially with the rise of digital platforms and international collaborations?
I want to say storytelling for special effects, graphical designers, and artists, there will be hard times for them. Maybe AI will be more improved than we imagine, and we don't need to get them. But I still believe screenwriters will be in the same place because there has to be an aspect of human, even in the stories and in the creativity. We will probably notice in a second, okay, this story written by AI, even it is perfect, there will be something less human, I believe. Maybe I will be much valuable. Right now, I am not valuable that much. Sorry to say that, but yeah, being a writer is quite difficult, challenging path. Anyone should be aware of the difficulties before they choose this option. But do I regret? No. I mean,
What advice would you give to young Turkish creatives considering studying or working in the UK?
studying is easy. I mean, according to field, my field was to chill, flex. We were just discussing the stories. We were watching a movie. When I come back home, I just write some stuff and just send it. There were some harsh criticism over my work. I was in a very bad, stressful times back then. That's why I was facing a writer block. I still have some traces of that, but slowly it vanishes. But on the other hand, working in creative field is quite difficult because many people doesn't want to involve in visa requirements, sponsorships. They say, oh, I don't need it because so many people want to work in this field and I want to work with a British person because they can adapt easily. I know that person. I know how they react, how would they know my culture. It's so important for them now. And financially, I mean, my best advice will be find a part-time job, find a connection, research the industry before you coming here. Try to make connections even you are outside of UK. Like, this is easy. You just need to go. I mean, creative people doesn't use LinkedIn, but there are some people who use it, but they use in a weird way compared to other industries. Try your chances. Try to reach many people as you want, and try to, even your relatives could be useful. Imagine if you have a relative or a close friend in the UK, just call them and just say, oh, I'm coming. Which field I can approach? Who do you know? Just ask. Don't be ashamed. Like sometimes I was ashamed to ask kids. I was quite timid. Even I don't sound like that.
I think not ashamed, but I think hesitant because I was because my experiences living abroad was pretty much similar, but then you have to break that.
Be active.
Yes.
Yeah, be active. Yeah, because it's a cultural shock, really. Because in Turkish culture, we don't tend to approach people that much. We don't tend to talk about our professions, our desires, what can be useful. It feels like, since we are on the record, I don't want to say, I will say it out to the record, but it feels like something bad, something morally bad. Many people say, look at this. I mean, I don't want to waste time with it. But in the UK or in your case, in the US, they will expect you to be more active. Talk about your passions. Talk about your things. How would you describe yourself? How would you be useful in this project? Just tell me and just try to convince me. This is how they work. This is what they are doing from the start of their, probably from the high school. They tend to work in part-time jobs. They tend to meet with lots of people. It's compared to us in Turkey. I just remember we went to KFC after the basketball game in Anora, like when we were high school.
Right.
Instead of just going to like meeting with some professional people. This is kind of sad. It's not people's fault. It's more like...
It's more of a cultural thing. The way we have raised.
The way we think. The way we proceed.
We were raised,
If we want to be successful in here, You need to be active. You know me, how active I am. Sometimes depressed a lot, which I also have like imposter syndrome, pushing myself. Like I don't listen to my voice.
Totally
Voice,
understandable, right? Orhun,
is-
finally, looking at both the political and cultural landscape, what opportunities or challenges do you foresee for Turkish creatives in London over the next 5 years?
In 5 years, well, probably it will be much harder to get some visa requirements, not just for Turkey, for all the nationalities coming from outside, because what they believe, there are so many people and there are so many people who don't have any job, like unemployed, we say. And they try to bring those people, fill the positions from inside, like internal positions. They tend to rise the population of British employees, I can say, instead of international people. That's why they are biased against bringing in new people from outside. But even in the creative industry, like I wish I was a doctor. Like there are no doctors in UK or there are no technicians in the UK IT skills. But there are so many creative people. They start reading books like Harry Potter. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings come from here. I mean, they grow up like this. And they tend to say, oh, well, do I need to have immigrants, creative people? That's why it is much harder.
Because it's extremely rich. Like, yes, the English culture, it's extremely rich, like the art again, the all types of music, museums. It's like almost hundreds of them. Even the museums,
architecture.
Yes,
I mean,
architecture. Exactly.
Like, somewhere like Westminster, you will just get inspired. I mean, you see how they shape their world by art.
Right.
You cannot convince those people to, I'm coming from a different country. I will just contribute here. I mean, it's just too dreamy sometimes. I didn't know back then. I was very optimistic. I still optimistic. I did very well compared to many people. But like I said, people should understand the challenges and decide according to that. There were no person or people who guide me towards that. I found my own way.
Another problem we have, we need mentors. We don't have mentors that can guide us through our journeys. That's one of the problems we face in Turkey. And but you mentioned these challenges, but also these challenges also lead to opportunities, because you, as an artist, as a screenwriter and creative writer, you challenge yourself, right? Because in London it's so rich. If you were somewhere else, somewhere easier, yes, maybe you would be living in a much comfortable life, but you wouldn't be challenging yourself, and that's what you need in art.
I mean, you can't be productive, you can't be part of anything, you can't show yourself, you can't show your ideas.
Well, Orhun, thank you very much for your time, and
Thank you for inviting me again.
greetings to London.
See ya.